early turnover troubles for IUP, and they'll surrender the ball early on. Clemens sends a man in motion, takes a snap, fakes another handoff with a pass. Wide open is number 17, Dana Johnson. He's got a wide open field. Jan Coleman giving chase, but to no avail. And Clarion takes the lead here in the Battle of the Birds, and he'll run. Well, typical huddle that we would see in order to keep the momentum going forward. Clemens in the shotgun formation, McGriff to his right. He'll hand it off again to McGriff, who finds a hole on the right side, and he'll break the plane on a dive. And Clarion is assisted by 2 backs, 3 receivers. Sends Florence in motion, and they'll get a big gain up the middle for a first down. He'll be down at the 40, a 15-yard gain.
Dana Jackson
able to get a few yards for the first. Clemens will hand it off to McGriff, and he gets the first out to the right side, and he's going to be out of bounds in IUP territory around the
big third down right here.
Mark Lewis in motion. And you know what? Clarion's just going to take it all the way on an open field. That one, number 22, Scott Florence.
Well, that's it. Those are all the highlights from last week. That's how the game ended. 20-0 at the end of the first quarter.
I wish.
Yeah. No kidding. Well, welcome to the Chris Weibel Show here on the Clarion Golden Eagle Vision app, the PSAC Network app, and live from Clarion River Brewing. My name is Sean Fagan. I am joined by Clarion head football coach Chris Weibel. It's week 8 of the 2018 season. Last week you were at nationally ranked IUP. Mm-hmm. I mean, it started in a near dream scenario, didn't it?
Sure did.
But got off to a hot start against the Crimson Hawks, but ultimately fell by a score of 24-23. But before we start talking about the negatives from that game, we are the propaganda department. Let's talk about the positives we can pull from that game. Again, you started out 20-0, and it was just a tremendous start. Did that kind of start portend itself in the week of preparation for IUP? Did you notice maybe an extra crispness with your team as they got ready for the Crimson Hawks?
There was an extra little bit of effort, I think, last week. Understanding that we were going to Indiana, and playing at their place, and obviously a ranked team, and a few weeks prior to us playing them, ranked second in the country. So we knew it was going to be a battle, a war. And I tell the guys that, and they got to make sure they're preparing for battle and a physical football game. And they did. They brought some more effort during the week, and it seemed like a little more, oomph in their step, I guess, if you could say that. So the week showed that we were ready. Did I think we were going to start off to a 20-0 start? No, I didn't. But it was a great surprise, and again, just wish we could have finished.
This is one of those things that we'll get into a little bit later whenever we talk about the upcoming game against Slippery Rock. But as a coach, you have to sort of walk that balance beam. You want your guys to get up for the big games. You want them to be emotionally charged, but you also don't want to amp them up too much.
Right,
you want to make sure you maintain a level head. How do you balance those two contending natures?
It's hard. It really is, because you don't want to say, hey, this game's for first place, this game's for for all the marbles. You don't want to put too much pressure on them, because we still got to remember they're kids. They're still young men, they're still kids, and and they put a lot of pressure on themselves. So there's a fine line between saying that every day, and I try not to. I say it at the beginning of the week, and then I just talk more about effort and an opportunity and what we have in front of us, and try to peel back by the end of the week as far as, hey, this is just another game. We're ready. Let's go out and get it.
And that's something we've seen from your team this year. We really have not seen a situation where your team has been, for lack of a better phrase, shocked and awed in the first half or the first quarter. Your team has been pretty consistent as far as it goes to start games, and that speaks a lot, I think, to the preparation you put the team through, the game plans you're putting in, and to their emotional maturity.
It does. We do a lot of weekly preparation, whether it's film meetings, practice. We stay on and we make sure they understand what the plan of attack is versus the opponent this week, and they grasp it, and again, that's part of upperclassmen. compared to last year to this year, we're over double the upperclassmen we have, and looking toward next year, we're even more than that. So it goes to maturity. It goes to upperclassmen, guys that have experience, that have been through it before, and understand what it takes, to win football games in the PSAC.
It was a significant change for your team last week, getting out to that big lead. You really haven't had too much opportunity to front run that early in the game.
Right.
You mentioned the best laid plans and all that, but nobody ever expects to go up 20-0 after their first 3 possessions. Does that change the philosophy of the game plan right away, or do you try to stick with who you are?
Well, we stayed with the game plan. We did a good job staying with the game plan, but we weren't ready to go up 20-0. That wasn't in the thought process. In hindsight, obviously, you can go back and say, well, we could have did this, but we got up, so we continued to push the gas pedal and try to score more. And we got stalled a lot through the rest of the game and only came out with 3 points through the rest of the game, where again, hindsight looks at it, hey, let's control the clock now, we're up. Let's control the clock and see if we can run this thing out and and keep them from scoring. But again, it's something that we weren't expecting, but it did happen, and if anything, we learned a lot from it.
Well, got to ask you. We got to bring it up. We'd be remiss if we did not. There were 2 big plays in the second half that altered the trajectory of that game. One was a fumble that was recovered. Jeff Clemens with the fumble on the rush on the option run. It looked like your team was driving again. And we also saw an interception by Quinlan Lambert that he returned to the 10, but there was a holding call behind the play. Without saying anything that might be considered too inflammatory. It's one of those situations where it's got to be difficult as a coach because, like you said, you're dealing with young men. You're dealing with college students, and you've got to keep them focused on the situation at hand where their reaction might be to say that the circumstances played against us. It's not our fault. You have to keep them on track and say, well, we have to control what we can control.
Absolutely. I talk about that daily, actually. We can't leave it in anybody's hands but ourselves, So, looking at the fumble, we shouldn't have fumbled. So if we don't fumble, there is no question. But we came out of the pile with it. There was no signal. I still don't know what happened, but we can't fumble. That's on us. If we don't fumble, it's 2nd and 2. More than likely we get the first down, and we can probably burn another 2 minutes off the clock. At that time, there were 5 minutes left in the game. We burn another 2 off, and even if we get stalled there, we kick it, we bury them deep. They got under 3 minutes to go down and score a win. So, I mean, that was a big situation, And on the interception return, again, we can't control the officials. They're going to make calls, and you just can't leave it in their hands. It can't, we got to take care of business, and they're going to make calls one way or another. And I'm not saying, they're perfect, but, they have to make calls pretty quickly, and I understand that. And, I'm going to complain. Every coach is going to complain about certain calls. But, again, you that's not going to determine the outcome of the game if you handle your side of the ball and you handle your business.
You held IUP to just 263 yards of total offense, completely stymied Lenny Williams passing the football. Made a couple throws at times, but the body of work over the course of the game showed that your defense had control. And one of the things I want to point out is your ability to get off the field. You're one of the best teams in the conference getting off the field on 3rd down. You held IUP to 3 of 12 on 3rd down. That's something that's really become part of the identity of your defense.
It has, and we take pride in it. Our guys, I always hear Coach Thomas, get off on 3rd down. Get off on 3rd down during practice, during the week, and that's sticks in their head. 3rd down's a big down. Get off on 3rd down, and we're okay. Let's get the punt, let's return it, let's get on offense and go. So they take pride, and big downs are very important. And I think our guys do a great job with it, and again, they take pride in it.
All right, Coach, let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the previous week's game against the IUP Crimson Hawks. For those of you at home, here's a look at some of the highlights from the second quarter between the Golden Eagles and the Crimson Hawks. You're watching the Chris Weibel Show.
But Justice Evans has been a pretty good player for him. 6 carries, 51 yards, and a TD.
As I said before, 67-yard drive last time on 6 plays. Evans will take it out to the right off the pitch off Lenny Williams, and he'll get a few yards after the line of scrimmage for a minimal gain. 2:45 remaining in the second quarter of play. Williams lines up, no options to go, no huddle. Another hand, he fakes. Yeah, he gives it off to Evans, who goes nowhere. Clemens, back to pass. The ball's out. It's an incomplete pass.
Yeah, he was down.
Oh, no, he was down. So it'll be a first down for Clarion.
Welcome back to the Chris Weibel Coaches Show. Sean Fagan joined by Clarion head football coach Chris Weibel. I was very unprofessional in the first segment. I waved to our head baseball coach Anthony Williams when he walked in, Coach. So I really hope that you'll forgive me for the faux pas
that's okay.
As far as hosting a weekly coaches program.
Well, I'll just come down here when Anthony's on the show sometime, in the spring, and
yeah,
you better wave to me.
I can do that. We'll do that in the spring coaches show. We've got the winter coaches show will be coming up here. I don't know, probably sometime in the first 2 weeks of November.
I'll just sit back there and heckle you. That's all.
There we go. All right, let's talk some more about the previous week's game against IUP. Malik McGriff, second straight game with 125 rushing yards. And I pose this question to you, Coach. Is he underappreciated in the league as a whole for how much he has performed and how much he is capable of doing?
He may be a little bit. I mean, I think he's respected, but he's also battled some injuries the past couple of years. Last year he missed a couple games, and this year he missed a couple games. And I think if he can stay healthy, and I think you'd see obviously his stats will be a little bit better. Our stats as an offense probably be a little bit better. Because I think when Malik's not playing, you can probably count on missing a score and probably missing 100 to 150 yards in your offense. I mean, it is what it is. He's good, and if he's not on the field, then we have to think of another form of attack.
I mean, you just look at it, and Marcus Jones again, and I mean he's a special player. Fletcher at Edinburgh,
Right.
He's a special player.
Absolutely.
Those guys get a lot of headlines. They get a lot of respect.
Right.
And but it seems like Malik just sort of drifts under that radar. But I'd have to imagine when you have discussions with your coaching colleagues around the league that they let you know that he's a guy that they really have to game plan and worry about.
They do. They have to account for him. If he's on the field, then we can hand it to him, and he can bust a long run, if not a touchdown. So. Again, I think he's got a great future in the PSAC. We just got to keep him healthy, so he can play, a full 11 games in a season. And I think then when you get that, especially early in the season, because both times have been early in the season where he's missed games last year and this year, and that's when the recognition starts. You
Sure.
know, oh wow, look what he's doing at the beginning of the season. You know, and then it kind of fades out through the end. But we need to keep him healthy through the beginning of the season. I think then you'll hear his name. You know, hey, that McGriff kid's pretty good kid.
Defensively, it seems like somebody new every week steps up and makes a big play. This week it was Quinlan Lambert coming up with the interception. Speaking of guys that slide under the radar, I feel like not many people know just how big of a part of the defense Quinlan is and has been. He's a physical player.
Absolutely.
He's a big hitter, but he's also shown some coverage skills.
He has, you know, and I didn't even see him coming for that interception. You know, last Saturday, you know, Lenny Williams threw it, and Quinlan kind of went up for it, you know, in front of the receiver and snagged it. So again, he's so athletic. He's all over the field. He's a great player, and again, he doesn't get a lot of recognition. You know, he probably should have had an interception in the Seton Hill game, you know, which guys collided. You know, so again, he doesn't get a lot of recognition as much as maybe some of the other guys do, but you know, he's a big part of what we do on defense and a big part of why the defense is successful.
You run that unique defensive scheme with the 3 safeties. You don't see a lot of teams doing that. What kind of flexibility does that afford you whenever you're game planning against a high-scoring offense?
Well, you know, those 3 safeties, we like to have the same type of guy. So, you know, every one of them can play down, every one of them can play deep. You know, everybody can cover, and all of them can blitz. You know, so you know, it's nice to be able to move people around because you can do different things, and you can't just key on certain guys pressuring or certain guys in coverage. You know, so it is a little bit different. Some other teams in our league do it. You know, but again, it gets somebody a little more athletic, you know, out there instead of like a will linebacker. You know, but so many teams in our league throw. You know, I think you need that athleticism out there more. You know, and the things that the teams in our conference do, you can handle with, you know, 2 linebackers.
What's the key to making that defense work on a consistent basis? You know, coaches talk about, you know, if we're not able to do this with this defense or with this personnel out there, you know, we could be in for a long day. What's the key to making that defense hum?
It's just everyday effort. You know, every day, you know, flying around like crazy, you know, putting in the work, putting in the film work, understanding the responsibility and executing, understanding how somebody is trying to attack you. Every day, again, I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but, you know, the defensive guys and all of our guys watch so much film, and it's so important on knowing who you're going against and what they try to do against you as far as moves and techniques and habits, you know, and things that can give some things away. So they do a really good job at that. Coach Thomas has them doing a lot of that stuff and really has them understanding what the plan of attack is defensively, you know, and buying into it is such a big thing.
Does that defense have a swagger now?
Kind of. I mean, they don't think they do. You know, they're just hard-playing kids that do a great job every day, you know, and put in the work, and they deserve to win. You know, we deserve to win, and you know, and I can't say enough good things about them and how hard they work and what they do every day. And, you know, it's hard to be, you know, a full-time student and a full-time football player, you know, in college. You know, you're looking at a full-time job between the two. So they do put in the time, you know, and they deserve to win. And, you know, we got a lot of wins ahead of us.
All right, Coach, let's take another break. When we come back, we'll look ahead to the matchup against Slippery Rock coming up this Saturday at Memorial Stadium. Here are some highlights from the third quarter between IUP and Clarion from last weekend. You're watching the Chris Weibel Show.
They've had back-to-back losses, but we'll have to see what they do on this play right here.
Clemens, back to pass again.
Wide open.
Finds a tight end, and he's got some field, and he's going to get shoved out of bounds. It's up.
It looks good.
And it is good.
We have several games starting at 2 o'clock in the PSAC. So just something to look out for.
Williams back to pass. And he's sacked. So 3rd and 12 now for Lenny Williams in the IUP offense. Williams takes the snap. Back to pass. He's got some time.
Picked off.
And picked off. And it might go as a pick 6.
Welcome back to the Chris Weibel Show. Sean Fagan, joined by Clarion head football coach Chris Weibel. Coach, this week you're playing for a trophy against the first-place team in the conference.
Yep.
It's the Golden Eagles and the Slippery Rock, the Rock, which I always stumble over whenever I try to say that really fast.
Right.
We talked about it before when previewing or recapping the IUP game. Part of you wants to make it business as usual, but the other part of you, it's natural. Guys get fired up for a game like this.
Right, absolutely. Slippery Rock's, obviously everybody's a rival for us in the West, but, Slippery Rock's been a rival with the Milk Jug, and we won it once, I think, since we introduced it as a Milk Jug game, so that's always a great thing. Obviously they're first, obviously, in the West as well, and I think mathematically, we could still be in it if we beat them. So that's our goal right now, is just to be 1-0 this week, and bring everything we got and throw everything we have at Slippery Rock and try to take them down and get that win and then move on to the next week. So, and things will just have to happen in our favor or not. So we're going to try to go 1-0 this week versus a good Slippery Rock football team, and get that Milk Jug back in Clarion.
Seems like we say this every week now, but it's another matchup of big offense versus big defense. And Slippery Rock, since they made the change at quarterback due to injury, went with freshman Roland Rivers, they're averaging 47.2 points per game.
Yeah. It's hard to believe that he was the third-string quarterback, at one point in time. So,
sure.
But opportunity arises. I talk to my guys all the time about it, and an opportunity arises, and his opportunity arose, and he's taking full advantage of it, and he's a good one. I enjoy watching him play. Obviously playing against me scares us a little bit, but he's a good quarterback, and we're just going to try to disrupt him a little bit and do some different things maybe he hasn't seen this year from a defense, because we do some things a little bit different, so we'll see you on Saturday.
You saw a true freshman quarterback just 2 weeks ago whenever you played Cal. That was Noah Mitchell, and at the time you talked about his poise. Are there any sort of comparisons you can make between what you've seen out of Rivers in preparing for this game and what you saw out of Noah Mitchell?
Same thing, poise, just comfortable in the pocket, understanding, the offense. You can tell he understands it, if the first read's not there, the second read's not there, here's the third read, stuff like that. But he also makes plays. He's a playmaker, just like Noah was. If something happens, a play breaks down, I watched a snap roll to Noah, or not to Noah, but to Roland, in the Seton Hill game, and he picked it up and ran for 15, 20 yards. So just making plays. He's a playmaker. And he's a big kid too, so it's hard to get him down. So we have to make sure we're tackling well, when he does do that stuff.
One of the things that has always defined Slippery Rock over the years is their work in the trenches, the offensive line, but also the defensive line. When you have a guy like Marcus Martin, who just went ahead and broke every NCAA record there was for defensive linemen over the course of his career, that's a place that knows how to turn out some of these pass rushers and these big-time defensive linemen. Is that still the case with this Slippery Rock team?
Oh, their offensive line is got to be one of the best in the conference. They're big, they're strong, they're coached well, and they give the quarterback a lot of time to throw the ball, and if it's a run play, they do a great job blocking. So their offensive line is pretty legit. Their defensive line, I know there are a lot of new faces on the defensive line. Obviously no more Marcus Martin. He was a difference maker. So and they're not as I guess they're not as big as normal, I guess I could say, but they're strong and they're fast. So they're kind of going to maybe a different style, of defensive linemen, but they're good. And the thing I keep telling our guys is, they have motors. They don't stop. You can't just block them and they're going to stop. They're going to keep coming. So you got to keep playing to the whistle and after the whistle, because they have a really high motor, probably more than anybody we've played yet.
Okay, I have to ask you right now, this has always been a point of contention. Is it a milk jug or a milk can? Because it looks like a can to me, but it could be a jug if you Google it.
It's a metal can, you know, but I don't know what you call it, a milk stern. I don't know what you call them.
Could be.
You know, whatever it is. I always look at those things and think you churn butter in them. I don't know. But it's a can, a milk jug, it's whatever it is. Whatever it is, we want it back here.
Yeah, whatever it is. It's got a Clarion logo painted on it. It's got a Slippery Rock logo painted on it. We want it back here.
We want it back here. So, I don't care what it is.
And that game is going to be a noon kickoff on Saturday at Memorial Stadium. You'll be able to watch that one live on the Clarion Golden Eagle Vision app as well as the PSAC Network app. And you'll also be able to follow along on the radio with Mike Kalinowski and Joe Ludnowski from WKQW and C93 here in Clarion. For head coach Chris Weibel, I'm Sean Fagan saying thank you for joining us on the Chris Weibel Coaches Show. I'd like to thank the folks at Clarion River Brewing for taking care of us. I'd like to thank our executive producer, Jared Sullenberger. I'd like to thank you for watching. We'll leave you with these highlights from the fourth quarter between the Golden Eagles and the Crimson Hawks. Thank you. Have a good night.
Pistol formation. Hands it off to Evans.
He's going to keep it. Nothing.
No gain.
Minutes off of his clock.
Maverick Kelsey in motion. Hands off to McGriff, who gets on the left side. And he's going to get the first down a little bit more. Williams hands it off to Evans. And he's going to get stopped.